Hi there, Janet Fritz here for Galaxy Girl Creations. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to an unconventional cut file usage video that I was doing in July with MK. This is my last one. Things got away from me with having COVID and then having some emergency surgery, but I am on the mend and doing much better now. And so this is the final one that I have for you guys for unconventional cut files. I have this Jeep cut file. I'm going to see if I can find it and put a link down below for you, but I'm not even sure where I got it, so that may or may not happen. Whether or not the link is there will depend on if I can find it. So I went through and I just sprayed it with some black Dylusions, black marble Dylusions, and I wasn't really sure what I was going to do with it beyond that. I do have some 4 photos of my husband doing some off-roading with friends of ours. And then I had this piece of paper that I had some gesso on it, and it has some cheesecloth attached to the bottom half of it for some texture. So I'm just going through and I'm adding a bunch of different browns at the bottom because in the photo the ground is all brown. And so I want to kind of mimic the photos. I'm using some desert sand there, and I end up using some, I think it's melted chocolate, some slate gray. Again, I'll put a list down below for all of the products that I am using. Now, I don't want my browns and my blues to mix because then I'm going to end up with a really ugly color. And so I am turning my page so that it is upside down, and anything that runs will run off the page and not into the brown. So if you are someone who likes to do mixed media and you're doing 2 colors that are going to make a not so pretty color in the middle, just flip your page over. You can see there where the brown starts to bleed into the green, and it gets or the blue, and it gets a little bit of a weird green. I am going to kind of clean that up. So you're going to see me clean that up here with this roll of paper towels. So that is a good way to kind of make it so that you don't end up with some weird color mix in the middle. Flip your paper over, because as soon as those 2 colors, even if they're dry, as soon as those 2 colors meet, it's going to reactivate because it's on gesso. If it wasn't on gesso, it wouldn't be a big deal, or as big a deal. If you wait for it to dry, it will soak into the paper. You might get a little bit of a mix, but it's not going to be as bad as what you just saw here. So I didn't want it quite as dark blue as it was. So what I'm doing here is I'm kind of spraying it off with some water. And I wanted the texture to be a little bit different as well. So I wanted to kind of have that kind of, I don't know, streaky look to it. I am happy with the way that it turns out, but you can see here I'm just kind of like playing around with it, trying to figure out exactly what I want. So at the end of the day, a lot of that gets covered up. So you're not even going to see as much of it as you think you're going to see. But yeah, I'm really happy with the texture at the bottom because I thought it worked out perfectly for this layout. Now I'm adding some tumbled glass because I wanted to lighten up the sky a little bit. I didn't want it quite as dark as it was. And as you can see here, as I'm adding different colors, it's leaving different kind of like splotchy marks. And I'm just deciding to let it be that way. Let those splotchy marks act more like clouds in the sky, I guess. You know, it doesn't have to be the perfect representation or the perfect, it doesn't have to be match the photo exactly is what I'm trying to get at. Playing with the placement of my photos and the actual cut file. And making sure it's looking how I want it to look with before I move on to backing the cut file in case I have to do any additional mixed media work. So I'm going to let the mixed media completely dry while I work on backing this cut file. I don't believe I make you sit through all of this because that would be extremely time consuming, but I had this gray kind of speckled gray paper and it kind of reminded me of galvanized steel. So I'm using that as part of this Jeep. I'm also using the paper that is laying in the middle of the desk there. That's kind of like a silvery gray, as a representation of our Jeep, because our Jeep is silver. The other people who are with us, they're driving a white Raptor, so I don't have a Raptor cut file, so I'm using this Jeep as our Jeep. And you know, you don't have to do matchy. It doesn't have to be like that. You know, this would be actually a great one to use for anything because it would be neutral, being that it's gray and so gray and kind of like, I don't want to say it's silver because it's not really silver. It's not metallic at all, but you know, gray is a neutral color, so it could work for any four-wheel drive layout, no matter what color your vehicle is. But I am just backing it by using several different techniques. Some areas I am able to just trace the inside and then cut it a little larger and back it. But some, like this particular area, I just decided to glue it on and then cut around it. And that was easier for me to do it that way on some of these, in some of these areas, because there are a lot of areas on this Jeep. And I wanted them to kind of like stand out and look different. I didn't want them to be, I didn't want it to all be one flat color. So like the roll bars are this really dark gray. The seat is the dark gray. I thought that worked out better than just making it all one flat color. So I'm not really sure that this is a very unconventional way to use a cut file, but it is, I am kind of making it the star of the page over the photos because it is taking up half the page. And so, you know, a lot of times we use our cut files as a background, and this one I was just like, embrace it, and I'm going to use it as a big feature on the page because I printed my photos smaller, and they are, I wouldn't say they're not the star of the show, but they didn't need to be the star of the show. I'm just kind of documenting a unique day that my husband went with our friends and did this. And, you know, there aren't great photos of the people. They're just kind of like candid shots here and there. So, you know, it wasn't like a wonderful headshot that I really wanted to highlight. It was just capturing the essence of the day, I guess is the right way to describe that. So here is my background, and there is my cut file. So I intentionally placed the photos the way they are, so it looks like the Jeep is just driving right up the photos. And I'm just adding my acrylic blocks right over the top to kind of hold it down while it dries. That was kind of necessary because adding it on top of the cheesecloth was really something that you had to let it dry with some pressure on it. Otherwise, it doesn't want to stay. So it probably would have been useful to maybe have some hot glue if you don't want to spend some time sitting there holding it, or letting it dry with the acrylic blocks over the top, because you definitely had to wait for it to be completely dry. I could not just walk away and let it dry on its own without that pressure. So I am just finishing this layout up at a crop, so that's why the desk has changed. And I'm just adding my title, and my title is Day in the Dirt. And I am using these really large dies to create my title, and I really like the way that it looks. I will put a link down below for those dies if that's something that is of interest to you. And then I'm going to use some little tiny dies, you can see them up on the right hand side there, to create the words in the, and I think I will end up doing those in a lighter color because they're going to be tucked in between the two words, and they're going to be on top of that black tire, so I want to make sure that they stand out. So again, I used my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive, but I had to let these dry pretty much completely before I could do any additional anything on this layout, because I am right over the top of that cheesecloth again. So, and I did not have my glue gun handy at the time when I was doing it. Otherwise, I probably just would have used hot glue. But I am also using foam. So you have to, if I'm doing, my letters are up on foam because I created my own faux thickers there. So if I'm going to use a hot glue gun, it needs to be the low temp. Otherwise, it could melt that foam if you're not careful. I pulled out one of my favorite stamp sets, which is no longer made, and so my apologies that you can't get it anymore, but it's from the stamp market, and it's just a label stamp set. It's actually called Labeled, and I am using that for my journaling. And I'm not going to have a ton of journaling, but I do want to make it, a notation of the day and the fun that they had. So I am tucking this one underneath the word day, or underneath the photo that is underneath the word day, and then the other, oh look, there's the low temp glue gun. You know what? I actually ended up realizing that the place that I was at, which is actually, I'm at my work, I was house sitting, and I borrowed their glue gun. So I didn't have my glue gun and didn't realize it, and then realized, oh wait, they have a glue gun, let me go get that. So there is my layout pretty much done. If you guys have questions or comments, you can just leave those down below and I'll get back to you as quickly as I can. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that you have enjoyed this series. I apologize that I wasn't able to get more layouts done for this series. Like I said, I am feeling much better, so I should be back with more videos for you for the month of August. And we are starting a new series for that. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.